And it wasn't started yet. All right, so it is started now. Started late. Oh, my code view and design view, I can do that. I don't know that I can zoom on here without changing the entire resolution, unfortunately. But so this is a component. So we have the components we had last time, the engine and the one that redirects the output. And then we've added this additional component here that's a Delphi variable that lets, so it's over here on the component palette, Python, Delphi variable. So we have that here that we've added down. And we say that the variable name to Python is test. And then when the user tries to get the data from test right here, we give it the edit1.txt, and when the user or when the Python script runs the modifies test, then we put it back into edit1.txt. And then let me look at what this button here does. Oh, so this is reading the variable back from Python. So this is showing how we can go to Python and pull the variable back out so we can see what Python set it to. That one's doing Python modules. Actually, let me jump out to the so if you go to the, I'll put the link in here in the chat window so you can find this. This will actually explain what each of the demos does. So let's see. I'm going to jump out here. I'm just looking which one of these demos I wanted to show next. Right, 22. So this is using threading and the Windows console and command line arguments to interact with it here. So let's run this. So we can see that it's opening up a new command window, Windows console window, and sending the output here through multiple threads. And it's also showing exception management, which we talked about earlier in Python. So here's where it's getting the console standard output. Let's see, 25, this one. So this is showing varpy. So here, as we click on the buttons, it interacts with the Python. So this is the executing Python script. And we're testing each of these data types. Or we can run the test 1,000 times So it's running inside Python. So the interesting here is that you're able to interact with from the GUI back into a running Python script. Okay, 31. This is where I think it gets really interesting. So in 31 here in this one, it's importing the Delphi form back into Python, and then the Python script is interacting with the object that is the Delphi form. So here we have a second form that's in Delphi, and so this Python script will instantiate that second form and interact with it. So when I hit execute, here is the form that's made in Delphi. That's this one here, and it instantiates it so that you can then interact with it. So this is being ran by Python, which is really cool. And then that shows you how you're able to use the provide your Delphi class, your form, to Python so that Python can control it and create an instance of it, for example, and then as user clicks on the form and uses the form, this is all done on Python. So even though the form was designed in Delphi, it's being ran by Python. So there's a few forms in it. Oh, and then it brings up a dialog. So let's see. In here, we get a drink. So actually, let me go here first. Python module. This is where we give it um, we're naming it spam because Monty Python spam, and we provide it access to a module called spam, and that is what gives it access to the right here. Main form. So we pass that form through Python module as spam. So our main form becomes spam inside Python. So all put inside spam. So from spam, so spam is that interface we're using, the bridge. We're able to import all of these and work with them. And then here's where it's then creating a form from my form, adding buttons on it, or setting up what the buttons do and stuff like that. So this is essentially letting you interact with the Delphi objects from Python as if they are Python objects. So here we're creating a form from scratch, giving it a name, saying it's Python generated form. So this one here is using, let's close these out. So I don't have too many open at once. This uses the Python module again in order to provide a new type to Python, or for new classes to Python. So it's catch has an error exception here. It catches. P is not a point. Oh, this isn't the demo I thought it was. Sorry, let me see. Actually, let's go ahead. I'm going to show the engine how you can go the other direction now. Oh wait, there's a. All right, let's do this one, and then I'll show it's going the other direction. So this is using the Python imaging library from Python. Oops. So this Python script is importing the Python imaging library, and then we're using that from Delphi here. I don't have any pictures. Let's search one in this folder here. Nope, it didn't come with one. It's okay. I can make a picture real quick. And then open picture. Go in here. Oh, it's going to get JPEG. Okay, let me just convert it to a JPEG. There we go. So now we'll say open picture. And there, right there, a JPEG. And then we can execute the Python script on it. Oh, I don't have pill installed. All right, so I have to install pill. I can do that real quick. Oh, that's not right. Does it need to be a specific version? Pillow. Okay. So now I can go back here to this and open picture and execute, and it rotated it. So you could do that right there, rotate. You could, there's other ways you could do this, but it's just an example of showing how you can use the Python4Delphi bridge to run a Python library, in this case Pillow, that lets us rotate an image. So the other thing that's interesting that you can do with this is you can go the other direction. So right now I've been showing you how you can use Delphi to interact with a Python script. So we're going to go the other way around and show how you can use Python to interact with Delphi libraries. We close this first. No tool. No. And then in the folder here, there should be, yep, Delphi VCL. So I have to build this first, and then once I built it, I can use it from Python. So I've hit build. Success. And so now I have the, right there, Python extension. So it just built this file here. This is the Python extension module that I can use from Python. So now I can open this, and I guess I'll open with Visual Studio Code. Since I'm running on the ARM computer, it doesn't run PyScripter. Oh, Visual Studio Code doesn't like that. I forgot. It doesn't handle the module not being installed. We'll try it and see. I can explain the code in here at least. So what this is doing is the Delphi VCL is the module I just built here, right here, Delphi VCL. This is a Python module. And we're just talking, we're going to import everything from that. And once we've done that, we can now, we have the application access to the application object from Delphi, which is the main application loop. And we can create a main form and it's reloading some stuff because I just installed that extension. Okay. So in here is where it's going to set up the, so the error is because Visual Studio Code doesn't understand that module there, but I can run it from the command line and it'll work. But this is setting the bounds of the form. This is putting a label down on the form. So right here, we're just saying a label, self being the form that owns it, putting it on an edit box, a button, and a list box. And then on the button we put down, the on click of it goes to button one click, which is right here. And that's going to take the edit one text and put it in the list box. So let me go to a non-administrator. And let's, what path is this? And then make sure I'm in the right folder. So I can say Python test VCL. Okay, so this is just that Python source file there that we had, the source code from Python, and this Python module, Delphi VCL.pyd. And now it's purely running this. And so I can say, hello from VCL, and hit add, and it added to the list box. So it's, hopefully that makes sense. Basically, I've turned a Delphi, a chunk of Delphi's VCL, or it could be really any Delphi code or libraries, into a Python module that can then be run from Python, making it, giving you the ability to take what you want from Delphi and put it in Python. So what I'm trying to show is that the Python4Delphi library is a bidirectional bridge. It can go both directions. You can use Python from Delphi or Delphi from Python. So I'm not seeing a lot of questions. So either I'm explaining things really good or everybody's eyes have glazed over and I've lost you all. So any questions or comments or confusion, that's fine. If that's the case, I'm happy to adjust course or amend things as necessary. And this one kind of got a little bit advanced. The idea was it's hopefully building on what we learned with the Delphi and Python streams previously. And there were requests on how to see how to do this. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to include this as well. I think it's pretty exciting, and it has a lot of potential to let you integrate both these languages together, integrate all the libraries available for both languages and such. So there's also the FireMonkey Delphi FMX, which effectively is the same behavior, but the advantage of this one is that it actually can be built for. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go project options. Right here. I have to point this to the FireMonkey source code. Okay, so the interesting thing with this one is I can actually come in here and add Linux, Mac OS, and Android. The Linux and Mac OS already work. Android is really close to being done to work, and so you could then create a Linux application or a Mac OS application or eventually an Android application in Python that uses Delphi's FireMonkey framework to create your user interface. So I'll just go into the other folder here, Delphi FMX. And I'll do Python test FMX. Did I not build this? Oh, Python extension, Python FMX. So this was just recently changed for the Android thing, and apparently it broke. I've done this and it works, but I may have checked out a not working. Let me see if I can debug it really quick. Project. No, it's not there. Oh, it's run. There we go. So host application, I'll put there as Python, and then the path to this file here, copy as path. I have the parameters. And then working directory will be. So what this is doing is going to let me run the Python module, debug the Python module, and see why it's failing from Python. So it's going to run Python past the path to the Python script to Python, and then that Python script will load in the Python module, and let me debug that. If I set that up correctly. I don't have the path to Python correctly. Let's see. Is there a simpler way to just run a Python script from Delphi application in the background, like kicking off a batch file? So you could just have a Delphi application just run a Python script like a batch file? Absolutely. If you have Python installed, you can just have Delphi call Python with the name of the script and it would run it. But what Python4Delphi gives you, and I know it looks kind of like a lot of setup, and there is setup here, but what it gives you though is then the ability to have the Delphi application interact with that Python script, or the Python script interact with the Delphi application, so that you can exchange data between them. Otherwise, it's a lot more restrictive in how they can interact. Now, if you want to have your Delphi application kick out a text file and then tell the Python script to process that file, for example, and then look at the results of that, you could do that and you don't need Python4Delphi. But this gives you the ability to do, grab that. I wonder if that's the problem. I've got the wrong version of Python. 396, no, that's right. I wonder if I'm running the 32-bit version of Python. Oh, I gotta add it to the, there it is. Question here. I have never seen that error before, Nicholas, so I wouldn't know. Unless I just had it here. But what you'd have to, whatever program that was that executed that had the error code, you'd have to figure out what it was. Oh, see, that's not what I want to do. I built it, so now I can go here. Nope. Huh. Something's not working. It was working. It's based on the same functionality as in the VCL one, but it's just wrapping the FireMonkey instead. So I will spend some time troubleshooting that later and submit a patch on that. But if you wanted to just execute a Python script and you didn't want to go through the Python4Delphi, you could use the DOSBox from the Get It package manager. Oops. DOS command, that's what it's called. DOSBox is something else. So DOS command lets you execute a program. It says DOS program, but it's not really a DOS program. It's a terminal program and catch the output. And so you could use this and just execute any Python scripts. You just say execute Python and the name of the Python script. It would run the Python script and then capture the output from that and go back to you again. So that's kind of a halfway measure between maybe a quarter of the way from to Python4Delphi. It just gives you the ability to execute it if you had Python installed and capture their output, but would be no interaction beyond that. Let's say one is more proficient in Delphi but not Python, and wanted to use data generated from Python someone else developed to run better represent results in Delphi. Could this be possible? Yes, could. So you could. So I'm not going to get into all the details of this just because I would not do a very good job of it. But if you go out here to these tutorials and check out these videos and these tutorials here. You'll find a lot of information on how to do that. And but essentially what you can do is you could, let's say there was some Python library that you needed to use to deal with this data that was coming from another source, and you're like, I don't want to write Python, I just want to be able to access this data. You could import that Python library and use it as if it were a Delphi library from Delphi. And then you could write your code in Delphi that could then load the data in and work with the data. And you wouldn't have to use any Python at all. You'd be using the Python library, but you'd be using it from Delphi. So all the code you're writing would be in Delphi, and it would be using the Python library and the data. So yes, absolutely. Yes, DOSBox is a great alternative, Nicholas, if that's what you're just wanting to be able to do is kick off the script in the background. Absolutely, it works really, really well. I think it is Windows only, but I'm pretty sure it is Windows only. But all the samples here from the webinar that he shows in there are here as well, and webinar 2 samples. So these are diving into some more, and you can actually see slides too. This is good stuff. So I worked with Kyriakos. He's the main developer of PyScripter and Python4Delphi, and did a webinar with him. Lots of great information in here. So I'm not doing it justice, I'm sure. He does a much better job explaining a lot of these things, but take a look at that and you can watch the video. It's all up on YouTube. And then this is an introductory tutorial by Dr. Kevin R. Bond, who we had on Monday as well, and another tutorial by Max Kleiner that kind of walked you through some of the basics as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right now then. I'm going to start prep for tomorrow. So I'm working on a partnership with the site Exorcism. A lot of people were asking about certifications. And Exorcism has all these exercises you can do in your choice of languages, Delphi, C++, Python, etc. And so I'm working on a process with them so that you can go out there, complete some exercises on this, and then the way it works is you complete an exercise, and then a mentor can review your code and provide feedback and such. And that way you can actually get some hands-on and try some of the basic stuff we learned this week, and some of the stuff, or the resources that we're linked to, and try your hand at it. And then based on if you're able to complete a few exercises, then we will provide some sort of certification to say that you have completed those exercises. So anyway, that's something to look forward to for tomorrow. We'll be talking about that more tomorrow. And hopefully we'll see you all back online then. Thanks a lot and take care. Bye, everybody.